At the heart of the gospel is God's invitation to us. God is invitational. The gospel itself is invitational. And we see this in Jesus' interaction with the little children in Matthew chapter 19. People were bringing little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them, but the disciples rebuked them. And Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Jesus said, "Let these children come to me." He was invitational. And then in another place in Matthew 22, he reveals the heart of God to us. And in that parable, the master of the feast says, "Go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find." So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. And so in that story, salvation is like a wonderful banquet God is preparing for people. It's joyful, it's attractive. And our job as his servants is to go out and invite others in. God envisions a banquet where the hall is completely filled. And so here's a pattern that's developing over the last few videos. First, we go out incarnationally into people's lives. We're sent. We go and love people and enter their lives and make genuine friendships and connect with them in authentic ways. And we demonstrate how God loves them and how God values them by serving them. And then we invite them into our lives and ultimately into the life and the love of God. So going and inviting are two parts of one rhythm. Going and inviting are as integrated as exhaling and inhaling. That's why I encourage you personally to be invitational in your life. That this is just an attitude of life, that this becomes how you see people, how you interact with people, that your first reflex is to invite people into your life, into your world, into your home. This involves practicing hospitality. When I use that word, I want you to understand that real hospitality is not what a lot of people think. Hey, I have you over to my house for dinner, so later on you have to have me over, and there's this kind of equation. But the word in Greek means love of strangers, and that includes people who can't benefit me. There's no advantage to be had for me by inviting you over into my home. But beyond being personally invitational as a way of life, I want to encourage you to team up with your church. You need to understand your church's gateway experiences. In other words, what can and should you be inviting people to at your church? Now, not everything your church does is probably a great thing to invite people who are far from God to. The prayer meeting might be a little bit too intimate, but there's certain things in the life of your church that are geared toward inviting people to. It may be something like an Alpha course where people get together for dinner and have discussion together to share the good news. It may be a special event like Christmas Eve or Easter or a men's or women's event or a service project. The church where I serve, the Gateway, is our weekend services. The whole service is geared to the guest who needs to hear the gospel. So figure out your church's gateway and then go use it and be invitational. And if you're already invitational in life in general, it won't be too weird to invite someone to church when the time is right. That way the whole church becomes your partner. People with different gifts than yours become a team with you. People whose gifts are to teach and to clean and to play music and to work with kids. You're all drawing on each other in the life of that person that you're trying to reach for Christ. And if you're a leader, make sure your church has an invitational strategy. If you don't have a clear gateway that your people can be invitational toward, that gives you something that you could be working on. Now take a minute and talk about it as a group. How can you become more invitational?